If it's not a hell yes, it should be a fuck no in everything that you do. The very life I built, I couldn't get out of. Like, nothing is a hell yes in my life right now. Nothing. And I'm doing it every single day. Wake up, drink my coffee, go to the office, go to Orange Theory Fitness, right? Go home, smoke weed, eat sushi, watch television, do it all again. Like, I was filled with shame. There were so many different ways to approach it, but I just approached it as a like I'm some sort of dictator, like you should bow down to me type of attitude. And it really allowed me to reflect, like, that's not the human I am or want to be. I didn't know there was another way to live because I just surrounded myself with people who live the same way. So when you do that, and a lot of society is like that, you don't even know there's another way to live. There's this whole spiritual world out there. You have no idea because nobody you're around lives in that world. The person that we should be most loyal to is not our best friend. It's not our mother, father, spouse. It's ourself.
Welcome back to this episode of Redefining Love. I am your host, Tara Portelli, and today I have such a special conversation for you guys because it's going to relate to so many of you. It's all about chasing the high. Now, that can mean many things. In this context, I'm talking about the dopamine hit, the one that we chase for money, for power, chasing relationships, chasing love outside of ourselves. This conversation is going to be for you if you're somebody who finds yourself on this perpetual cycle of chasing that high, that feeling. My guest today is an incredible entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses. He is an author. He wrote a book called Chasing the High, an entrepreneur's mindset through addiction, lawsuits, and his journey to the edge. Michael Dash is here to share his story very vulnerably about how he realized that he was a terrible leader, leading from his ego. He recognized that he was looking for the next thing, that he was never happy or content in his life. He ended up on this journey that brought him all the way down to his knees, or as he calls it, the edge, and found his awakening in himself that helps him now to lead from this place of consciousness. He leads from his heart. He wants to empower people. And this is his new way around leadership. This is an incredible episode. You guys are going to love it so much. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce my guest, Michael Dash. What was going on in your life the very first time that you got arrested?
It's an honor to be able to answer this question. It's an honor to be able to answer this question. What was going on in my life? I was running a business that was running me. I had 3 locations and about 40 employees. I was disconnected from my soul. The business itself was doing well. However, I was kind of being run by my ego. I also was an investor at a bar, and it was a very popular bar at the time. And so I like to puff my chest out and go there and buy drinks for people and get them in, cut the line and all those things that would fill your ego. And it was really, I used to tell people that people would ask me, because I had a recruiting and staffing business. Oh, they would say, so you're a recruiter. And I would say, no, I'm not a recruiter. I'm the mother effing CEO.
Right.
Or I'm the CE mother effing O. Like, this is what I would say to people. I was like, how dare you call me a recruiter? They work for me. So I was like very ego driven. And through that, I was partying a lot. I was in that scene. And I wanted to just be surrounded with people who were kind of like relying on me in some sort of way. And all the women I dated were the same at that point. They were party, quote unquote, party girls. And we would party together, and I would pay for everything, and they kind of relied on me. My employees kind of relied on me. The people at it was just this whole vicious cycle of feeding my ego. It didn't bring me anywhere. It brought me to like isolation and depression and all these other things, because the external validation that you were talking about, right, is fleeting. It happens, gone, and then you're left at home alone with some weed and sushi. At least that was my story.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that this is something that a lot of people are struggling with. I think that a lot of people rely on money, power, external validation, the validation from women, gaining love outside of themselves in order to feel worthy, to feel, and I feel like it's this missing piece that a lot of us are experiencing. Like, we're checking all the boxes. We think we've got it figured out. And then you kind of recognize it inside of yourself, and it ends up being actually self-destructive, because when those things go away, you fall apart, because that's what's holding your foundation up. So in your book, you talk about how you were chasing happiness through making a lot of money. What do you think that this is a belief that was taught by your parents, or where did this belief come from?
Well, I don't even think I was chasing happiness, because I didn't know what happiness was. I still actually, happiness is such it can be defined in so many different ways by so many different people, right? I was chasing the high back then. That's really what I was chasing. One high after another high after another high. In my life as a man, right? Most of my life, I wasn't connected to my feelings and emotions, because I wasn't taught how to be. And I lived in two areas. I lived in the highs and the lows. I lived in excitement, which is one of the highest vibrational energies and emotions. And I lived in anger, which is one of the lowest, right? I think right below anger is probably shame. Right, I think shame's the lowest. So I lived in those two areas, and all the emotions in between, like happiness and like love and all these other things, I didn't connect to, because I didn't know how to, and I didn't know how they felt. So I was always chasing excitement. The high for me was excitement, and the drugs and the drinking and the partying and having people around me, and the power I would have in the office, and just like how I kind of operated in a kind of arrogant way. It was just actually who I was at the time. Like, it wasn't even like arrogant to me. I'm like, no, this is who I am. You don't like it? Tough shit. But now that I have transitioned and really transformed so much, like, I remember that I actually was not a good leader. I was like, I couldn't even lead myself. How was I going to lead employees? I was just really good at my job. I was just really good at what I did. And I can look back now and say, yeah, my ego was driving everything. And the external validation, the power, all of that stuff, it didn't bring me true fulfillment. It was all fleeting.
So I'm curious, like, what was that transition like? Like, what happened to you that finally had you realizing that you were leading with your ego and looking for this validation outside of yourself? Like, at what point did you shift that, and what happened?
I had a 6-year legal battle with my ex-business partner. And at like year 4.5, 5, I wanted it to be over. I just didn't care about winning anymore. The first 4.5 years, it was like, don't you dare, like my father would tell me, And like I was seeking my father's validation throughout this because he was an entrepreneur. He was a business person. He took care of the family. I was very fortunate. I didn't have to pay for college. He paid for it, right? One semester. I mean, I worked through college for spending money, but like most of my friends had to take out loans and do all this other stuff. So my dad, the most important thing for my father was that we were financially free and that we found careers and we were very successful and we were making a lot of money. So the whole time, without really connecting to it and realizing it, I was trying to please my father. And it wasn't until this lawsuit, and he would tell me in the lawsuit, "Don't you dare let anybody like screw you over like the way she's screwing you over. Don't you let you fight, fight, fight." And it was actually he was giving this advice from a loving place, but it was the worst advice I could have had because it didn't allow me to even consider like the ramifications of this lawsuit on my mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. And it really drove me into depression, anger, like so many like drove the me wanting to escape, the escapism, like all of that. And I remember in year 5, I'm like, I don't care if I win or lose. I just want to be done. I want to be done with this. I don't even care. And then I got, called on the stand. It went to trial. I got called on the stand 6 different times, and they really smeared my character. It made me look really bad. And some of the things that they showed up there, emails I wrote to employees in my India office who weren't working, I was in this state of mind that was so angry that when they were read back to me, I was filled with shame about that's how I approached the subject. There were so many different ways to approach it, but I just approached it as a like I'm some sort of dictator, like you should bow down to me type of attitude. And it really allowed me to reflect like that's not the human I am or want to be. And it was only after I went through that transformation. And during that, by the way, I went to over 20 retreats. I started going to retreats and they really changed my life. I didn't go to over 20 during that time frame, but I started going to retreats over that time frame. And the retreats really shifted my life. And I ended up meeting some people at a retreat and taking one of their courses, and it changed my perspective on a lot of things.
So it's almost like the life that you had been living is being completely destroyed. Like this experience that you were going through has been like ripped apart. You're being ripped apart as a human. Almost to be like, like a phoenix, like you're dying to be reborn again. And like it sounds like through that experience, like you were humbled, right? Because you were hearing this is how I've been showing up, but you didn't recognize it yourself. So it's almost like someone had to come in and show you. Like the idea I think of is, the ghost from Christmas Past, when you like go into your lives in the past, like when the ghost comes and says, this is how you've been showing up, and like this is how you need to transform, and then finding this place inside of you where you want to do the inner work, right? Because a lot of people are stuck in that cycle of external validation. We live in a society where it's like a dopamine hit. Everything is a dopamine hit now. Everything's on demand. I need this. And like social media is like, how many likes can I get? How many followers? And it's this constant searching and seeking of validation. And it's like, when are we going to shift away from that? When are we going to start to like just go inside of us and like start to work on us and being okay with who we are, And so you're in these retreats and you're doing this work, and it's changing your perspective, right? Because ultimately that's what healing does. It helps you to see the world through a different lens. Like, what do you think? Like, was there one retreat, one moment that was like an aha moment for you, or was it just was it kind of a build-up over time?
Well, the first retreat I went to was really the aha moment because I was sitting in a room with 30 people I didn't know, and there were 2 people on stage talking about flow consciousness and how they built their dream life. They had good lives, but they weren't really in their highest vibration. So they left these like super successful jobs to create their dream life. And it was through their intuitive guide that allowed them to get there by trusting their intuition, even though consciously, and it made no sense what they were doing. They were leaving like a hedge fund job, this one guy, and the woman was like, just got funded $10 million to build a nursing house for autistic kids, which was her dream. And then they got these things, and then they realized that actually wasn't their true dream. That's what society was kind of pushing them. That's the next step, and so forth and so on. So when they started saying, they said this sentence, if it's not a hell yes, it should be a fuck no in everything that you do. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? I was like, really? And it was the first time I ever heard that. And I really let that sink in. And I'm like, nothing is a hell yes in my life right now. Nothing. And I'm doing it every single day. And I'm a robot. I'm just a robot. Like I wake up, drink my coffee, go to the office, go to the same places, get back to the office, I was going to Orange Theory Fitness at the time, that was a positive. Go to Orange Theory Fitness, right? Go home, smoke weed, eat sushi, watch television, do it all again. Like literally just a robot. And I wasn't allowing anybody into my life. I wasn't allowing like other opportunities and offerings. And it wasn't until then that I realized, wow. And then I stood up in this session and I raised my hand and I said, I dumped everything on the table. I told him I was going through addiction issues. I was running this company that I felt stuck in. I couldn't do anything because I couldn't sell a company I'm in a lawsuit with. Right? Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to do. The very life I built, I couldn't get out of. I built it. I did every single thing to put myself in that situation, and I didn't know how to get out of it because it wasn't bringing me fulfillment. So they told me about this course they offered, and I didn't believe in courses at the time either. I thought they were all a scam. You have that mindset. You're like, online courses, that's a scam, right? They're going to just take my money. I'm not going to get what I delivered, what they said they'll deliver. And so I had this mindset. But when I flew, after I talked to them, and they told me they could help me settle this lawsuit through the practices of EMDR, and I don't know if you're familiar with EMDR and tapping. Yeah, I forgot who I was talking to for a second. Yes, and I had never done that work, and I remember flying home saying to myself over and over, would it be so bad to live a different way? Would it be so bad to live a different way? Right. I said it for 14 hours, flying back from Bali. And I immediately went and I signed up for this course. It was like $1,200 or something. And it was the best decision I ever made because this course really shifted everything for me.
So it's really just we get so stuck in this way of being and thinking, so closed-minded. We think that our way is the best way, right? And then you realize that it becomes your own prison that you can't even get out.
Yes.
And I think it's also it's the difference between the logical progression through life versus like leading from your heart and what excites you and what like lights your soul on fire and what your passions are, and obviously I think a lot of people need to know that sometimes you have to take that risk. Even if you feel like it might be a scam, you just got to take the risk and try something different that you've never tried, just to kind of even just open up maybe a new doorway or a new way of being or thinking. So obviously that's what you did to shift out of that.
It was really about stepping out of my comfort zone and doing something I never would do. And being able to go do that then allowed me to shift my mindset, because now I was in this program with a group of people who had totally different energy than I was surrounding myself with.
Yeah, who are doing the thing, right? Like who are stepping out of their own comfort zone too, or who have.
Exactly, exactly. So we were all kind of stepping in from different perspectives, doing something new that was a little woo woo. And I'm like a guy from Jersey who wore a suit every day to work. Woo woo, and when people started saying manifestation to me, and I was like, "There's no such thing as manifestation. It's called coincidence, right? Or it's called if you work hard, good things happen to you. That's what it's called, right? And then they would say synchronicities to me, and I would say, no, synchronicities are coincidences. These things don't exist. Okay, it's a coincidence. Not everything has to have this higher power meaning. That like, oh my God, did you see it was 111 when you called me? I'm like, okay, what does that mean?
I'm that girl. I'm saying
It's
that all the
it's
time.
the most powerful time in the day. I'm like, okay, great. Now when I see it, I'll say maybe I'll be like, oh, 111. Thank you. That must mean something good is coming to me. Say a little prayer or something. I feel like for several years I was building a business, I was successful at it, but I wasn't learning anything new. I
Yeah.
was just doing what I was good at. I was building this business, and had more employees. It was never enough, but I wasn't actually learning because I was just focused, like narrowly focused on one thing. And it impacted my love life, it impacted my family life, it impacted like a variety of my friends, how I acted towards my friends. Because nothing mattered to me except building, 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 money, money, money. It was all money. Chasing the high was really chasing money.
Because that's what you were taught.
Um,
You were taught to, once you build it, they will come, and right.
yeah, I was really taught like if you want to be successful in life, you need to have money. You need to make a lot of money. That is what defines you as a success. And now I know that's complete bullshit. That doesn't define you as a success. That defines you as successful from a business standpoint. But that's it. That's it. Right. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of other aspects to every single human in this world. But we're we're programmed. At least I was programmed in a specific way. And so that's how it happened. So like after I settled the lawsuit, I wrote a book. I wrote my book, Chasing the High. I left Salt Lake City, Utah, where I was for 13 years, and I moved to LA, and I wrote the book, Chasing the High, and all the lessons that I learned throughout the courses I was taking, the retreats I was going to, what shifted in my life, my addictions, a gambling addiction that started 10 years old and lasted 20 years, and how I was able to kind of slowly come out of all those things and the lessons that I learned along the way. So that opened my mind, and I really had tremendous growth after the book came out. Not even like while I was writing the book or anything. That was the beginning of it. COVID happened, and I came to Tulum, and then there was exponential growth in Tulum because I started doing a lot of men's work in the men's group that I helped run called Men of Means. And in that group, I was introduced to prayer and God, and that was about 3 years ago. And I had disconnected from religion, disconnected from God, not disconnected from God, but like I wasn't praying, I wasn't doing any of this. I never really prayed in my life after I had my mitzvah because I was born Jewish, I was raised Jewish, but I didn't connect to any of it. So it wasn't until 3 years ago that prayer was introduced to me again in a totally different way, in a way of looking at God as your business partner or as your partner in general, and looking at prayer as a form of intention setting and giving gratitude. And that resonated with me. And since then, I've been really able to build this prayer practice and have gratitude every day. So much so that I got it tattooed on my arm, and it says, "Life is a gift. Gratitude is its signature." And having gratitude and prayer in my life has really shifted everything for me.
Yeah, I can also attest to that. I think that once we can connect with our own version of what spirituality means, we can lean into that a little bit because we know that we're not alone. Because I think when we think that we are completely alone and that, maybe God doesn't exist, or maybe there is a God, but it feels really far away, it can help us to really just lean into it, trust that, that there is something greater out there for us, and we just need to follow our hearts and what makes us excited. And, you talked about how you were kind of stuck in this like robotic state. I think that's kind of how we are all taught to be. Like when you think about how society is, it's like we're just taught to be robots. It's like if you want to be an entrepreneur, these are the building blocks. This is what you have to do. If you want to do this job, this is the building blocks. But we're not really taught to like follow what lights us up, because that's woo woo, right? Like that's not practical. And I listened to a podcast, it was called the Bullpen Sessions, and you were talking about, it was a really important point, but you were talking about how as a business, you're taught the power of focus and doing and just staying focused on the one thing. But you said it could also be detrimental to the business because you're almost neglecting the most important person in that equation, which is yourself. Can you speak to that a little bit and like share what your thoughts are around
that? We get so fixated on tasks, on checklists, on things we need to do, on things we get through. When you actually check one of those things off, you get an endorphin kick, right? Like you get a boost of energy. You're happy. You're proud of yourself. This, that, and you just want to feel it again and feel it again and feel it again. So you get so focused on. At least I got so focused on being a task master. I was actually I was a task slave. I was a task like servant. Let me put it that way. And every single day, I would write down this list of things to do. And as I checked them, check. I got to get through the list. I can't leave. I cannot leave until I get through this list. And what I was doing was neglecting my health, neglecting my emotional state. I was a robot. I was also on Adderall for the majority of the time. I was addicted to Adderall as one of several things. And Adderall really removes the majority of your ability to tap into your emotional state because of the drug itself, right? It gives you this feeling of like you're a little shaky and stuff, and you're just so focused on whatever you're doing. And you can get a lot of stuff done, but like I remember I could not feel joy at all. I could feel excitement. That was the only thing I could feel, and anger. It's a reoccurring theme that excitement and anger were the two places that I lived, and Adderall drove me to that. So my ability to like really connect to myself, I never even thought about it. It wasn't even didn't even come into my consciousness about, hey, how can I love myself? How can I love my inner child? How can I, what do I want to do? I will do the same things over and over and be like, no, we're going to go out, we're going to drink, we're going to go out, we're going to watch football games or something on TV, which is a complete distraction. It's okay from time to time, but when that's all you're doing, right, and you lose the ability to really build yourself as a holistic human being. And that is what happened. That's the path I chose at that time. One other point, like I didn't know there was another way to live because I just surrounded myself with people who live the same way. So when you do that, and a lot of society is like that, you don't even know there's another way to live. There's this whole spiritual world out there. You have no idea because nobody you're around like lives in that world.
Right. Well, they say you become like the closest 5 people to you, right? So it's really breaking out of that comfort zone that you talked about when you took that first course, that kind of helped you to see a different way of being and working and living. So now, like, you're running your own business still today, but how is it different this time? What does life look like for you now on a daily basis?
Well, actually, right now, I'm about to go back into the entrepreneurial space and running a business. I'm not running a business right now. What I'm doing is running my retreats for entrepreneurs called Live Life Activated, May 20th to 25th. Tara,
Okay.
we're focused on aligning our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual practice with our vision and mission in life. So I've been running those, And I'm now about to go back. I'm doing a fundraise right now, which I've never done before. So I'm going to take money from somebody and build out a territory for a franchise. And it's going to be a whole new experience. And I'm very excited about it because I get another opportunity to lead consciously. All the things that I teach and that I've learned over the past 6 years since I sold my business, I can now bring into building a company and organization. And it's almost like I'm getting a second try, getting a second attempt at being the leader that I truly am. And I'm going to be able to take everything that I'm teaching all the entrepreneurs at my retreats, and I'm going to actually be able to implement it into the business. And I'm super, super excited about that. And my new business partner, she is super aligned with herself, with her needs, with her being, with like her essence, so to speak. And so we have like this conscious communication going on, which I've never experienced before with anybody I've done business with. And ironically, for whatever reason, I've had, my first two other business partners were both women also. So I'm like, all right, the third time, it's either we strike out and no more of this, or we're going to hit a home run. And I know God told me it's going to be a home run.
Amazing. Well, congratulations. That sounds really exciting. And to have that opportunity again to lead from a different place. When you talk about like conscious communication versus like regular communication, what does that even mean?
It starts with radical honesty. And if you're not radically honest with the person across from you, then you are betraying yourself.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah.
It's not even about the person across from you. It's about honoring yourself, honoring your own emotions, feelings, wants, and needs, and not saying yes to things that really aren't a yes, and not letting somebody speak in a way that doesn't align with you, and not really sitting around and gossiping about other people. And I'm not perfect. I once in a while fall into the trap of gossip, but gossip is the lowest denomination of communication so when I talk about conscious communication, it's really about expressing yourself and your needs. And because the person that we should be most loyal to is not our best friend, and it's not our mother, father, spouse. It's ourself.
And I think that's so important what you just said, because I think that for myself as well, like as a people pleaser at one time who was always just trying to make everybody else happy, fill their cup, fill their needs, and like totally neglecting myself. I can totally resonate with that, because now I do see it from this lens of like, no, I need to think about what do I want first, and then and then I can offer myself to somebody else to help them in whatever way that looks like. But that's a huge shift when you think about going from this place of chasing the high, the addiction, probably the relationship that you had with yourself, and probably not being honest with yourself. And so when you think about like how are you going to show up in your business every day, like is there something different that you're going to do that is showing up for you instead of just leading the way that you did in the past? Like what's going to shift for you?
Well, I have a gratitude practice, and I'm going to pray, and I hope to pray with my staff. And it's non-religious prayer; it's intention-setting prayer. But I think that really will bring us together and bond us. And I want to teach them the art of communication, the art of expressing yourself in the most crucial conversations that are uncomfortable in a manner that the other person can receive positively, and it supports them and uplifts them.
Wow. That's incredible. Could I come work for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got a job.
You got a job.
I love that. I love that you've been embodied this new way of being, and now you want to kind of spread that through, and I think it's important because I think that leadership needs to come from a place of lifting people up, not, beating them down. And I think that sounds kind of where you're heading with things, and also being more authentic to you.
Yeah, 100%. And like the actual most important thing I didn't mention, the most important thing in managing other people is being inquisitive, the power of inquisition or the power of asking questions and understanding where the person's coming from before you start correcting somebody on what they should or shouldn't have done. Like, and really understanding, like, when you ask questions, you understand the other person's perspective, right? And you can also understand if you're leading them, if you did a good job preparing them with the information they needed to be successful at what they're doing. If you don't ask questions, and then you're operating from a place with lack of information. When you have lack of information, then you're disconnected to the entire energy of whatever the situation might be. So what I've also learned is the power of inquiry is extremely important in business, but in all areas of life, in relationships also. In relationships also, right? Mm-hmm. And really being attuned to your partner and asking them maybe even more questions than they want to answer, right? So that you're opening up that flow of communication. And one thing I found very productive is when you have something to share with somebody that might be that might be challenging for you to share, or that we might imagine they would be upset with. We ask permission if they're open for us to share a reflection with them. So that they're okay. Yes, you have my permission. I'm ready now. So you don't just come in from the side and just slam somebody with something negative about them, and they're not prepared, and you're not eloquent about it, and they're not receiving it, and you're really upsetting them, and then you're just causing this energy that you're going to have to go back to them and have a conversation later about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I think we do that a lot in conversation. Like, instead of kind of easing them into maybe a difficult conversation, it's like you just lay it on them. Or if someone's trying to share something with you, instead of trying to go in and solve the problem for them, like maybe they just want you to listen. And I think if we can be more genuinely curious and be better listeners, I think that we for sure in all of our relationships can thrive better. I know for myself, like I've definitely learned that.
100%. And like, instead of like when somebody's sharing with us, what I try my best to do is not give them advice, but ask them, how can I support you? And then let them tell me, well, I would love your opinion or something, and then I'll give it. And sometimes they don't want my opinion, and they're like, you actually just supported me. Thank you for letting me express this. Sometimes people want to just get things off their chest. And I know in our men's group, like we talk a lot about, a lot of times the women in our lives, they just want to be heard. They don't want us to come solve a problem. They're not asking for it. They just want to be heard. And I mean, you would be able to attest if this is correct or not, but like this is the feedback that most women give their spouses in life and their partners in life.
Yeah, I think men by nature are like fixers. They just want to solve the problem for you, but like sometimes you have to kind of come to your own realizations, and you just need somebody to listen to you or be a sounding board. So now tell us a little bit about, are you going to be continuing your men's group? Like, is that something that, some of the male listeners can access, and how would they do that?
Yeah, 100%. It's an online group, so I'm one of the shareholders in it. So we'll definitely be continuing it. It's called Men of Means, and if they're interested, we're doing a relaunch in 2 to 3 weeks. So if they're interested, I would love for them to reach out to me, and I'm glad to share all the experiences about it. They could also go online and find us on Instagram. It's just Men of Means. Yeah, we really, our 4 principles are radical honesty, radical integrity, radical ownership, and play. These are the 4 pillars of it, and it's all layered underneath that is our connection to God, source, universe, creator. So we do talk a lot about that, but it's a non-religious group, and we don't talk any religious stuff.
Yeah. And I feel like that's really important because I think men more than ever like need to express emotion because again you're taught to push it away, to be macho, but it's nice that you can come together and like actually have real conversations about life and be able to express yourself in a group that's safe to be vulnerable.
Yeah, 100%. We meet on Sundays, and there's like a sermon given on Sunday, and then during the week you have a tribe. You're assigned to a tribe, and there's like 10 to 12 of you, and you meet once during the week. And then there's also a marketplace we're building so that you can network your business, whatever you're doing with your business as well. So this three-pronged approach, which we're relaunching in 3 weeks, is going to really give men almost everything that they potentially need: emotional support, business networking opportunities, and a tribe of men that they can really grow close to and share their inner darkest secrets without judgment.
I love that. That's really beautiful. And so, this whole podcast is about the relationship with ourselves, and the evolution of the relationship with ourselves. Because when you're a kid, you're taught that love exists outside of you, it comes from our parents, it comes from maybe Disney, whatever we see on TV or social media. As we get older, social media kind of, and Hollywood, they start to paint this picture for us. And we kind of just go through life believing that if I have this, the American dream, if I have the girl, if I have the guy, like I'm going to be fulfilled, which is most people. Until they get to this point, usually in your quarter life, that you're like, I'm so unhappy. I'm more miserable than ever. I've done all the things I was told I'm supposed to do. And maybe you're finding yourself in the midst of an addiction or a robot life or, all the things that you kind of spoke to. And so now when you think about this evolution of yourself with yourself, this relationship with yourself, would you say that, that you now look in the mirror and you say, like, Michael, like, I'm proud of you. Like, I love you. Like, do you have this compassionate conversation with yourself where maybe before you didn't?
No, I don't, and I probably should. But I do love myself. But I don't. I've done mirror work before, and it was helpful at the time. I don't really do it now. But to your point, it is important to do this self-love work. I mean, I continue to go to retreats, and in the retreats, then I'm doing the work in the retreats. Like I just came back from a Kabbalah retreat. I started studying Kabbalah like 2 years ago. And it's a slow progression with me with all of this stuff. I dip my foot in, I dip my toe in, then my foot goes in, then my legs in, and all of a sudden my whole body's in. Right.
Yeah.
And so I've been studying that, and like for me at this point in my life, um, I'm a learner, and I want to learn, and I want to continue to learn. And I've been, since I wrote the book, like I shared so much. When the book came out like 4 years ago, I was on 60 podcasts. I did a tour, and I was in 3 locations, and it was fun. And I think I actually lost some of my intelligence along the way because all I was doing is regurgitating my story for like 2 years straight. I didn't learn anything during that time. And then I was like, all right, I'm not talking about the book anymore. So for like 2 years, I didn't talk about it. So, and then I was get these random messages about how it's like supporting people out there. Somehow they found it. And da, 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 da. So I said, okay, I'm embracing it again. This is who I am. I'm going to speak to it. And, through it, I recognize that, wow, you've gone through a lot. You've overcome a lot. There's still aspects of myself that I get to work on. There's still things that I want to work on, like I'm single. I want to be in a loving relationship. And I know there's a part of me that needs to continue to do the work on myself to attract that person that I want. And I love myself. I'm very proud of everything. And it's been interesting the last 4 years moving to Tulum because it's a whole different energy here. It's like not real.
Kind of. It's a bit of
It's
an
like,
escapist paradise.
it is. It is. And even though I started a business here, I had a dress company here for a year and a half. Like, I'm not a dress guy. I mean, I love dresses, but like, I'm not like running a dress company. I mean, come on. So I did that with somebody. It didn't work out. Shocker. But now I'm like in my true alignment, right? And I'm ready to take everything I've learned, the love I have for myself, the love I have for others, the gratitude I have, and bring it back to the States where I imagine a lot of healing is a lot of people are looking for a lot of healing and a lot of growth and different ways to do things and support systems. And I feel like I'm equipped to go and provide that just by being me. Like, I don't have to fake anything. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to like try to be this arrogant person, like, oh, I'm this, that, and the other. No, just the way I move in the world now is inspiring to myself, to my old self.
Wow. Well, I mean, it is a journey, right? So just what you just stated there, that you feel comfortable to be yourself in this world that sometimes makes us feel really unsafe to be vulnerable, to be open, to be ourselves. I mean, that in itself speaks to the relationship you have with you and the love that you've cultivated inside, because the only people that can show up authentic are the people that are just okay to be authentic without worry about, people judging them or rejecting them. So
Yeah, 100%. And it takes us getting out of our own way to really do that.
so like, what advice would you want to give someone that maybe they're stuck in that state of being that's very robotic? Every day is like Groundhog Day. They feel unfulfilled. Like, what would be the very first step that you would tell them to do to shift that?
Do something you've never done tomorrow, or do something that you enjoyed as a child, but don't have it in your life.
And that kind of speaks to the fun part of your men's group, right? Like, kind of connecting with that playful side of you, that like free spirit that we all used to be as children, and then we became adults and we messed it all up.
Thanks for reminding us.
It's like you become an adult and you forget how to be like playful and joyful, and it's just everything's so
Yeah, everything's so serious, like you said. I mean, it's just how we have been molded by society. And now it's tougher than ever to get away from because of social media, and it's crazy. It's crazy. And video games is also another thing, especially for like young boys. They get addicted to this stuff. So yeah, to your point, I really look. The one thing we can control is, and people might not believe it, but we can control our environment. Okay, so like if you're in the house and like it's just like you're in the house all day working, like no, go outside, go to a coffee shop, go somewhere else, go to a library, go. No, maybe not. Go to libraries aren't that inspiring, but you know my point. Like, go to a WeWork, go somewhere else, shift the energy up. It's the same thing with your relationship. It's the same thing with your physical body, right? Like, go out in nature. It's so important. Shift something. Try something new. You never know what you like until you try it. So I used to be one of those people that would judge things I never tried. I would judge them like, no, I'm not going to ecstatic dance. No, that's ridiculous. I'm not going to go and dance with a bunch of woo woos, like with no alcohol or anything. I'm just going, no, I'm not doing that. And then I did it, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. right? I don't need to do it every day, but once in every couple of weeks, I can go and enjoy it and move my body and just like be free and nobody's judging you, and it's great. And that's not for everybody, but that's just an example, right?
Mhm.
It's an example. There's so many things out there that people can try. They just have to take that first step.
Yeah, no, and that's honestly really good advice because I think people do make excuses to go and do something new and to do, oh, I can't afford it or I can't, there's always an excuse, but it's really just getting out of your own way, like you spoke to. So we connected over psilocybin as a connector for us because obviously, like my work is around psilocybin therapy, and I know that psilocybin has been really powerful also for you in your healing. Do you mind just quickly like sharing with people listening who maybe aren't open to this idea of psychedelic therapy for their minds, how it influenced and changed things for you?
Well, psilocybin, it actually brought me closer to God. It actually allowed me to realize that there is a higher power. There's something else out there. There's an energy out there. There's a force out there, creator, whatever you want to call it. Because I went to places that I didn't know, like my existence could go to, and it allowed like a lot of freedom. It allowed a lot of freedom in my journey, and it also allowed me to like be freer with my body to move more. Like what I love about psilocybin is it's soft enough, at least in my experience, it's soft enough to open us up. And obviously, if you take too much, you're on a different journey. And if you go in with intention, then you can literally heal whatever you're looking to do, or you can expand whatever you're looking to do, or you can be open and you can be free. It's really important to go in with an intention.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We should respect it because it can be a very powerful substance to be using.
I take a very small amount. I know exactly what it's going to do. I know how long it's going to last. I know how controlled it is. Everything like that. I'm not a person who wants to go on a hero's journey. That's if your listeners don't know what a hero's journey is, I'm sure they will from you at some point.
Yeah, like 5 grams or more. It depends on the mushroom, but typically around 5 grams or more, which is a lot.
With like 5 grams, like it scares me to no ends.
Yeah.
Like yeah.
And I think mushrooms scare people overall. Like I think anything that's it's funny because we're so used to using alcohol as a mind altering substance, and we're so afraid of something like a mushroom who what could actually help you and benefit you without needing it again to feel that way. Like it can shift how you feel in your body. Because I know for me, I feel like a totally different person since my first experience. Like I would not be the woman I am today if I didn't do that one psilocybin journey on the beach that one day in 2018, So I think people just need to trust it a little more and know that it can benefit them. And I think when it comes to religion, people are afraid because they're taught that these substances are going to take you to Satan, or like there's these narratives I've heard around them, but it's actually not that. It's actually the opposite because it's like very loving, playful, healing medicine. So thank you for sharing your experience with it.
Yes, super loving, super playful. Yeah.
Yeah. And it does expand you because I think because we're stuck in these little box that we were taught. And it's like, wait a second, like I'm bigger than this. I'm bigger than the program that the society has told me that I am. Like I can do these big things, and like trusting in yourself and just like cultivating that relationship with yourself. Like my very first time feeling self-love was in my mushroom experience, and it didn't leave me. It was kind of like an introduction, like you can access love inside of you. You don't actually need that other person to feel that way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And it's all conditioning. I mean,
Yeah.
people go to alcohol because they've been conditioned to go to alcohol. But what's really interesting now is the trends are shifting, and there's wellness social clubs popping up all over the place, and I'm very excited about that because A lot of the generation now, Gen Z, whatever they call them, I don't even know what they call them, are not interested in going to the bars and drinking as much as going into wellness and fitness and like non-alcoholic beers are popping up all over the place and they're like cool. And so I'm interested to see what it looks like in 2 years because this trend is not stopping. It is on the upswing. So there is hope.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that the younger generations are not using alcohol and substances like that. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. That's exciting.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this conversation and for being here, being so vulnerable about your story. I think it's really helpful for people to hear that, you can pull yourself out of these ways of being in this addiction state or this chasing the high and actually tune into yourself on a deeper level to find, more peace. And so if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm at MDASH1. And they could also find me on Facebook. And my book right here is Chasing the High. It's on Audible. Read it on Audible if you'd like to listen to a Jersey accent for 4 hours. And it's on Amazon. And it's an entrepreneur's mindset through addiction, lawsuits, and my journey to the edge. So there's a lot of life lessons in here that you can incorporate into your own life. So I would love to hear from anybody that is interested. And I also have retreats coming up and a lot of fun, exciting things. So feel free to reach out.
Good, and they can find all that on your social media.
Yeah, it's Instagram mainly at MDASH.
Okay, I'll put all that in the notes for anyone who's listening. Okay, Michael. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
Thank you. I really appreciate you.
So there you have it. This has been another episode of Redefining Love. I hope you took some things away from this amazing episode. And please, if you enjoy what you're hearing, if you want to support me, if you can please give me 5-star rating, leave a comment below, and subscribe. It would mean so much. Until next time.